Hello friends, I'm Alex. Welcome back. Today we're gonna cover our guide on the Rolex Hulk watch, which is the 116610 LV. We have here both the genuine item and the replica item, and I'm gonna show you in 10 steps how you can decide if you're holding an authentic item in your hands or a replica item. Today I have both the genuine and the replica Rolex Hulk holding in my hands, and I'm gonna challenge you to another game. I'm gonna ask you to pause this video right now and leave us a comment with which one of the watches you think is the genuine one and which is the replica, the one that I'm holding on my right hand or on the left hand. Afterwards, please resume the video and see the result. So if you went for the watch in my right hand as being the genuine item, you have the correct answer. This is the genuine item, while on the left hand I was holding the replica item, the top quality replica. So right now let's have a look at the guide on how to spot the differences between the genuine item and the replica item on our Rolex Hulk Submariner watch today. For the first step, we're going to inspect the color. And as you will see, there are differences when it comes to the green color on the bezel, which is the unique design of the Rolex Hulk. The second step, we're going to take a look at the date window, and we're going to see if the date is perfectly centered and the font is correct. For the third step, we're going to inspect the Cyclops lens and how this lens magnifies the date in the date window, and you're going to see that there are differences here as well. Fourth step, we're going to inspect the bracelet and the lugs on your Rolex Submariner watch, and we're going to decide which are the main differences here as well. For the fifth step, we're going to use the rotatable bezel. We're going to rotate it and see how it clicks on the genuine item and what are the differences on the replica item. For the sixth step, we're going to analyze the winding action of your Rolex Hulk, and you're going to see how it feels different, and we're going to transpose how it feels in the video and tell you what the main differences are. For the seventh step, we're going to take a look at the crown guards and see how the crown is guarded by the two items on the genuine watch as well as on the replica watch. The eighth step, we're going to check the engravings on the bezel, their quality on the genuine item versus the replica item. The ninth step, we're going to take a look at some other engravings, which are those that can be found on the Rehaut, both on the genuine item and on the replica item. For the 10th step and the last one, we're going to examine the Sunburst dial effect on your Rolex Hulk watch. So right now we're going to start with the first step, which is the color of your bezel. On the Rolex Hulk you can find this Hulk color, the green color, which is available on the genuine item. Most of the replica manufacturers cannot perfectly replicate the color. So if you'll have a look at the bezel, and of course if you get the chance to put both watches one next to another, you will definitely see the differences in the color. As the replica items, most of the times they are a bit lighter, so the green is a lighter shade, let's say, while the original item has its green perfectly colored as a perfect color, very close to the Hulk character in the cartoons. Of course you can Google it and have a look at the color code of your Hulk, of the original item, and you can put that color, that image next to your watch, to the watch that you're holding, and see if there are any differences. Of course, if you're taking a look on some other internet pictures with the Rolex Hulk, it depends on the light, on the sunshade and so on, so you might have differences there as well, even though you might be looking at the genuine item. So guys, for the first step, I'm gonna leave you with this. Take a close look of the green color, which on the genuine item always has to be very intense, very saturated and very vibrant. This is all I can say for now, unless you have both of the items holding in your hand, the replica and the genuine. For the second step, we're going to take a look at the date window and how the date is centered within the date window. So on the genuine item, again, you're going to always have the date perfectly centered into the date window with the correct font. On the replicas, this is again a tell that you can see, as the date is not always perfectly centered, I mean the numbers in the date window, and also the font is most of the times a bit thinner than the one that can be found on the genuine item. Always take a look at the date window, and if you get the chance, try switching, manually winding the watch and manually changing the date so you can have a closer look to some different numbers as well. Those numbers always have to be perfectly centered with no flaws in the date window. For the third step on the guide, we're gonna take a look at the Cyclops lens. The Cyclops lens is the magnifying glass above your date window that helps you easily read the date. It actually magnifies the date so you can easily read it. Again, on the genuine item, you will always have this lens perfectly magnifying and assisting you in reading the date, the number in the date window, while on the replica item, some of the times it might either magnify it a bit too much or a bit too low. Of course, this can also be seen in our written guide and in the picture, so you can tell the differences. However, another tell that you need to look after when talking about the Cyclops lens is the anti-reflective coating that is available always on the genuine item. So this means that light cannot easily be reflected from the Cyclops lens, while on the replica items some of the manufacturers don't use the anti-reflective coating and the light might be reflected, so you cannot read the date if the sun goes directly into your date window. You need to change your hand to switch it in order to get the sun out of the date window. For the fourth step, we're going to inspect the bracelet and the lugs of your Rolex Submariner. So taking a closer look on both items, you will see that if again you get the chance to hold both items on your hand, the bracelet feels totally different and it's of much higher quality on the genuine item. So take a close look at the bracelet and make sure that you can easily adapt it, easily close the clasp and open it. Nothing feels unusual. If anything feels unusual, it might be the chance that you're holding a replica item in your hands. Furthermore, inspect the glide lock clasp as well and see how easily you can adjust the clasp. Again, if you're holding a replica item, you might get the chance to pull up or push it a bit harder, or it simply doesn't feel good. If it's not good, again, you might be holding a replica item in your hand. So take a close look at the lugs as well at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Here you must not have any space in between the bracelet that connects to the watch between the lugs, neither at 12 o'clock or at 6 o'clock. If any light passes by, this means that you're having a gap. If it's not symmetrical, you are holding a replica item in your hand most of the times. For the fifth step, we're going to take a look at the rotatable bezel, and what I'm telling you about is the fact that, of course, you most probably know that the bezel rotates. You need to manually try and rotate the bezel. Again, if anything feels inconsistent here, if anything feels awkward, most probably you're not holding a genuine item in your hands. So again, I'm having right here both the genuine item and the fake one, and I can definitely tell the difference. On the replica item, the clicks are a bit harsher, and again, when you're trying to rotate the bezel, you need to pull some extra force on it. It's not that smooth. If it feels inconsistent, if it feels awkward, you're holding a replica item in your hand. So the genuine item is a bit, I would use the word clicky. It feels nice, smooth, and it clicks in a very elegant manner. The sound is very nice. For the sixth step, I'm gonna tell you to try and analyze the winding action of your watch. Again, if it feels smooth and everything feels fine, you're probably holding a genuine item in your hands. If you're holding a replica item, it might feel at times a bit harder to wind your watch, or it feels like it's not really working well, including when trying to wind your watch as well as when you're trying to adjust the date or the time. So take a look at the winding action as well. Anything feels inconsistent, anything feels awkward, it might be the chance that you're holding a replica item in your hands. Another tell on our guide, the seventh one, is about the crown guard. The crown guard are actually those two elements on the left and on the right side of the crown, which are guarding the crown. You need to take a close look at those and see again if you can spot any inconsistencies. On the genuine item, the guards are symmetrical, and on the replica items, besides the fact that in some cases those might not be symmetrical, it might also be the case that they are a bit more thicker, so they do not guard the crown as tight as on the genuine item. For the eighth step, which we're going to discuss right now, we're going to check the engravings on the bezel. The bezel is the outer circle above the dial, with those engravings with the numbers 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50, and with those lines at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7, 9 and 11 o'clock. Those engravings have to be very consistent on the genuine item and will be very consistent on the genuine item with the same color, the same depth of the engravings, while on the replica items the color might be different in some cases, even on the same bezel, and you might find inconsistencies when it comes to the depth of the engravings. So take a close look at the engravings on the bezel as well. For the 9th step, we're going to take a look at the engravings on the Rehaut. The engravings are made up of the Rolex letters as well as the crown and the serial number that can be found around 6 o'clock on the Rehaut. You need to take a close look at those engravings because all the elements in these engravings have to be perfectly aligned with the minute markers, including the crown at 12 o'clock has to be perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock marker. The serial number in some cases, even on the genuine item, might not be perfectly centered, but all the other elements have to be centered and aligned with the hour markers on the Rehaut. For the 10th step and the last step on our guide, we're going to examine the Sunburst dial effect, which is present on the Rolex Hulk genuine item. So on this authentic item, the sun will reflect in a very nice and elegant manner whenever it hits your dial, with a very consistent color, the green color present on the dial, while on the replica items, some cheaper replicas don't even have the Sunburst dial effect at all, while some of the higher quality replicas, like the one that we're having right here on our guide present, will replicate the Sunburst dial effect, but it will either be a bit darker or a bit lighter, so the sunburst effect will not be very consistent like on the genuine item. So when looking at the sunburst dial effect, you need to keep in mind that on the replica item this effect will not be present to the same extent as on the genuine item. Take a close look at the dial and see how the sun reflects or any other source of light in your dial and how the sunburst effect is present on your watch. Thank you so much for watching us today. I was happy to present you the very beautiful and elegant Rolex Hulk watch. I also had the replica item here next to it, so it was pretty easy to spot the differences. Don't forget to like, to subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment with whatever watch model you want us to cover in the future. We will happily do it for you and we're happy to hear suggestions. Thank you so much, keep in touch, have a lovely day, bye!